Cuba was the last stop of our Caribbean trip, and even though we had no boat anymore, it was our favorite island of them all. We landed in Habana, and it felt like we had gone back in time. The cars were from the 50s, and the colonial architecture reminded us a lot of Alborn in Barcelona. There are very few places in the world where one can experience the pass of time in such a unique way. And being there was like attending a life history lesson. We got to a casa particular, a Cuban guest room in a local family's home, and Tomás, our host, welcomed us in.
On the first day, we went out to explore the city and quickly realized how music was embedded into Cuban culture. From the street to the fanciest of hotels, there was music everywhere. We spent the evening in Hotel Nacional, a public facility run by the government.
What is this, Rick?
On the second day, we soaked up the Cuban vibes by signing up for a salsa class, where we learned the basics. We also visited the Superior Institute of Art, which had amazing architecture. Something else that caught our attention was the big commercial centers, with 1,000 soaps of the same kind. For lunch, we went to Coppelia, a state-owned gigantic ice cream facility, where you line up for an hour and then get 5 balls of ice cream for 16 euro cents total. You can't pick the flavor, but you can ask for as much as you want.
So, we're going to go and dance some salsa in Habana. I got a new dress and we're ready to rock.
In the evening, we went out dancing on a date. And the next day, we left for Vinales and said goodbye to Tomás in the most Cuban way.
Vinales was our gateway into rural Cuba, and of course, we fell in love with it. There's something in the light of that place. We had breakfast in the casa particular.
Buen día.
Next is gonna lick my feet again.
And then headed out for a climbing day.
Cuban piggies.
On our way, we noticed the slower pace and connection to nature. It was grounding. There was a guy making tomato sauce on the fire. And there were animals roaming around the fields and houses, as well as farmers working on the land with cattle, as they had no tractors available. Cows and horses are owned by the government. Cubans can feed them and use them when alive, but are not allowed to kill them or else they go to prison.
And we are climbing in Cuba. This is a tufa. And this is Rick.
Ensenada.
Rock climbing in the limestone mogotes was beautiful. It was a little bit energy draining. You had to pull on a lot of steep stuff. And we have been climbing all day, so it feels exhausting, but hopefully it gets easier now.
With the anchor?
You're proud of your anchor.
Yeah, leaves only 2 caravanas.
Almost there!
Adventure with plants!
However, we didn't pick the cleanest multi-pitch route, and it was more like a vertical jungle.
Following day, we biked around the hills from village to village and met some wonderful humans in a paladar called La Yuri. A paladar is a kind of restaurant Cubans make in their own house.
Adios! Ah, sí.
We heard about cockfighting as this very important Cuban illegal activity that they do in the countryside.
We are on our way to a clandestine cockfight here in Cuba. We have followed a bunch of locals and we end up here in this little trail in the middle of nowhere, and we can already hear the cocks.
So, of course, our adventurous spirit couldn't help but try to find one. And we did. These men would weigh the cocks and put them against each other based on how heavy they were. Then bet 3,000 to 4,000 euros on the chicken. Even though our travel soul felt like we were witnessing something very authentic, it was very hard to watch, and we're happy it's not legal. In hindsight, we shouldn't have gone there. There was a bit of a sketchy, violent vibe going on, so we left quickly and got some fruit along the way.
The last day in Vinales, we woke up for sunrise and watched it from the hills. Josbel, our Casa Particular host, brought us on a tour there. We then went climbing once more and visited a tobacco farm along the way.
Tiempo de 3 a 4 meses, ¿ok? Y el 10% es empaquetado en estos paquetes así para hacer la fermentación.
The Cohiba tobacco, made in Cuba, is very well appreciated everywhere in the world.
And me climb in this cave here in Vinales.
In the evening, we went for a sunset stroll and had a date at a local paladar.
Estoy tan enamorado de la negra Tomasa que cuando se va de casa, qué triste me pongo. Estoy tan enamorado de la negra Tomasa que cuando se va de casa, qué triste me pongo.
This is a vegetarian option, little salad,
Con vegetales.
arroz con vegetales, and this is ropa vieja.
Esa negra linda.
Gracias. Trinidad was the last stop of our journey, a town closer to the beach. We stayed at another Casa Particular, and some locals showed us their food book, which indicates the amount of food they can shop from the public supermarket. Every household can only get a limited amount of food per month. In the evening, we went to listen to live music on the street. And met a lovely Italian couple with whom we danced some salsa.
Super protected.
On the next day, we met this motorbiker at a gas station and asked him if he could take us to the mountains. As there was no means of transport to get to the coffee farms, Trinidad is known for having the best Cuban coffee. He called his friend and organized 2 motorbikes right away. They were a funny pair and got very excited for the adventure of going up the hill. Along the way, one of the motorbikes overheated and we had to take a little break. But we finally made it to a small production coffee farm called Topes de Colante. There we learned about the differences between Robusta and Arabica coffee. The Robusta variety is stronger, less sugary, has more caffeine and grows from sea level to 700 meter high. The Arabica coffee is milder, smoother, sweet and has less caffeine, and grows between 1 and 2,000 meters of altitude.
In this farm, they pick the coffee from the trees in October to December, then it gets sun-dried for 1 to 2 months, then the coffee hull gets separated from the grain by smashing it with a gigantic mortar, and afterwards the shells get blown away by the wind through a tray-shaking process.
Yo casi que pierdo más granos que no gano, ¿eh?
Entonces el aire saca la cáscara y se queda el granito un poco más limpio.
Al fuego, porque se tuesta al fuego durante unos 45
45 o 50 minutos. Se va moviendo así.
And the beans get sorted. Then the clean coffee beans get roasted on the fire and get grinded again. The coffee gets thrown in the water when it's about to boil. They let it rise and remove it from the fire. Then filter it and it's ready to drink. What a wonderful country we had the pleasure to visit.